think it's not really about black men. I think it's the appeal they have and the testosterone. And I really think it boils down to masculinity. They exude more testosterone and masculinity than other races. So they become universally desired by women. Now, this is not all women. I'm just saying in general, they have more. You could travel to any country. You join Tinder, girls will match with you. It's any country. Now, if you do that same thing as like and I don't mean this to stigma, I'm saying this as a South Asian woman. If you say that as a Pakistani man or as a Vietnamese man, you don't have the same luck. So is it really you seeking other women or other women seeking you?
Here's exactly what happens when you do a one-to-one call with me. Firstly, you get expert, qualified advice from a trained psychotherapist and CBT specialist. Not only that, but you get up-to-date advice on what's really going down in modern relationships, which your actual therapist will never tell you. And most importantly, you get actionable steps that you can take immediately to start changing your life and your relationships. So if you want to know more, just click the link below.
So we'll go right back to what I say and what I suffer from in specifically in the space of women, but I think this applies to all types of addiction and just lifestyles, is the access to excess. Is when an individual has the access to as much as he wants, there's gonna be a downfall.
Yeah.
So even with me attempting to find balance and peace, because again, it was all about pleasure up until a certain space where I'm like, all right, I've had it all. I've had the access. I've been that individual to where it's never been a challenge for me to at least get a type of woman. Maybe, you know, of course, individually.
Yeah, of course. But there's no race.
I've got some L's before. You know what I mean? But I was like, I've never had an issue of, like, it's just, but that becomes my problem. That becomes my issue. Therefore, I have 12 children with 6 different women.
That's where God is useful.
Right.
Yeah, that's where finding God would be really useful, because self-control is going to be difficult to exercise yourself.
I have no self-control.
Yeah, and without self-control, it's unfortunately you can't have a predictable future. If you have no self-control, one day you might be married with kids, the next day you might be flying to Thailand and getting married to somebody there. Like, you've got no predictability in your life and your future, so your life feels imbalanced.
But if I know that,
then it's fine.
And I'm comfortable with that. And that's
chaos.
Like, I know I'll never be married again.
Yeah.
Like, and not in that, especially not with the government, you know, and a contract and all that. Like, I can make covenants in that sense of dedication. And like, to me, like I said, this next 18 to 20 years are all going to be focused on my children and being the best father. In my 60s, who knows what I'll do, but hopefully that'll be that peaceful stage that I could just sit back and appreciate and have no regrets.
This kind of love for women and desire for women, has it held you back or propelled you into a great life? Like, do you enjoy that?
It's propelled me. Like, it's everything about, like I said, I love my life and every experience that I've had. I've never, you know, like I said, we're gonna knock on wood again, but I've never been in a scenario where a woman was my downfall.
Okay. You feel super lucky.
Yeah, and most of the women in my life have elevated my life.
And you're a diagnosed narcissist, and you've been so lucky with women. Isn't that amazing?
I mean,
but that's what because this is my work. What I've noticed is women are far more loving and loyal to men that display narcissism than the nice guy who's just too placid and too passive.
Talk more about that. Tell me why that is.
Women are far more faithful to a narcissistic man than they would be a nice guy, because there's something in a man that, you know, if he wanted to, he would just leave. At any point, if you push him too far, he will replace you. It propels a woman to either meet his needs a lot more, or at least be like in some kind of competition where she works for him.
Is it part of her nature that she just wants to do for her man, and if there's a fear that he may leave and go build this household elsewhere, that
brings out a better side of him? Wow. Yeah, it brings out a better side, because we've evolved to compete for men. We've evolved, like, one man goes and gets food and hunts and gathers for like lots of women. So we need to be on the top of the hierarchy if we want survival. So when we know that he hasn't got any options and he's never going to walk away,
you mistreat him.
We treat him like shit. Like, literally, and this is the main
Fellas, are y'all listening to this?
They're treated like shit. And it doesn't mean you have to be narcissistic to a woman in order to get a good treatment. It just means that when she knows that she can get away with bad treatment and you ain't going nowhere, you bring out the worst in her, she'll become the narcissist.
Wow.
So
because I feel like you said something similar in reverse, there, where if
They have a willingness to walk away.
Yeah.
Then you behave. This is a key that men have forgotten because, especially in America, they think that you just have to be loving, loyal, everything. And I agree with that. But at the same time, you should be loyal to how a woman treats you, not just because she's a woman. End of story. So if the treatment is bad and she's misbehaving, then there has to be a willingness to walk away. And what modern men have done, and what's really ruined their masculinity, is they don't have boundaries. They are either so narcissistic and have too many boundaries, where they're just like, fuck you, and they just replace her.
Right.
Or they're too warm and loving and have no boundaries. They're like, okay, you can do whatever you want, no problem, no problem, no problem. To get a masculine version of boundaries, you have to simply have the boundaries, but you're still very loving. You're loving, you're good to her, but if she treats you badly, you have a willingness to walk away. If you don't have that willingness to walk away, women can smell it off you, and they'll treat you terribly. And the men that have the least willingness to walk away are the ones that are too lustful after the sex. They worship that woman's sex. And when she knows that you worship her sex, and she knows that you can't replace her sex, she gets more and more abusive.
Interesting. So I want to offer this up because, again, like we talking about it, and men and women both have this now, to me more than ever, is options.
Yeah.
And is that a healthy thing? Because it sounds like what you're saying, it can be healthy because like if I know I have options, like I don't care how good your sex is, like your vagina may be amazing, but it's just she got one too. Like it's up there. And that's what I think we even started off with this conversation. Like when you just remove sex or the actual physical act, and or you know that you have options to get that elsewhere, what is keeping?
Well, this is where I think this is where cultural differences matter, because men who are good at sex, they think they're the holder of good sex. So if you're not doing them and if you're treating them badly, he'll go get good sex elsewhere. Men who are not good at sex think it's all about her. And if she's not good to him and she's not working hard, they'll tolerate anything just to keep her because they're not confident in their sexual performance. So the more confident a man is in his sexual performance, the more he has a willingness to walk away, because he knows, okay, if you act a fool, no problem. There's another girl who would love to be on this dick. Like, sorry to get rude.
I've said that before.
If you're a man who's terrible at sex, and a lot of men are in this generation because they grew up with pornography, because they've self-induced an erectile dysfunction, or because they feel like it's not big enough, or because they're comparing it to pornography, and they've grown up with taking Viagra from like 19, 18 years old. They're taking Viagra. They've lost their sexual confidence. So what ends up happening is when they're with a woman who abuses them, cheats on them, treats them badly, because they're now walking around with this small D energy, they'll stick there. They'll be, okay, whatever you want, I'll stay with you. So a man's self-confidence is so linked to his sexual performance. And when he is actually low self-esteem, what that really means is he's not confident in his sexual performance, because that will be the determinant of what you tolerate in a woman. If you're good at sex, you'll tolerate very little bad behavior. You're like, okay.
So then how does it work in reverse?
For women?
Like, do women have that? Do they wear their sexuality the same way? Because I mean, what you just said made perfect sense.
Yeah.
But does a woman hold value in her good sex as well?
Especially in this day.
Like, does she, if she knows, like, I got
one
the
thing I would
goods,
say,
I'll leave. Because it's not, again, because in the same time, because if a man is promiscuous and knows that he has a bunch of options, he's praised. If a woman's like, I'll go fuck 30 other guys, then at some point she's going to be deemed as a whore and all of those things.
But it's the treatment she gets out of those guys nowadays. If she fucks other guys and they're buying her cars, rents, everything, and this is why I know it sounds terrible, but the female equivalent to black men in dating is Latin and Russian women. Why? Because they're fantastic at sex. And that's why they are, if your man treats them bad, doesn't pay her bills, isn't treating her right, bye. They fall in love with what a man can offer her rather than him. Because they don't attach any commitment to him. Like, if you're going to treat me badly, you're not going to pay my bills, you're not going to look after me, bye, 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 bye. Because they also have that sexual hierarchy. They're at the top of that.
Wow.
And I don't think people realize how much being sexually desired puts you in a completely different dating pool to everybody else. So Russian and Latin women behave similar to black men.
Right.
You don't act right, bye. You're going to cheat on me, I'll cheat on you with your dad and your brother. What are you going to do about it? So that's how they move.
That's so interesting that you put that, because obviously even as we get into our next session, it's about relationships and mastering the relationships. But right now, we're still talking about this idea of mastering women, in which we really got into the space of mastering your sexuality and
that's
your
how you master
performance.
women. The key to mastering women is mastering your sexual self-control. And what I mean by that is either you're so good at it mentally and emotionally, you're so good at your performance that you don't put women on a pedestal. You only put the way she treats you on a pedestal. If she treats you great, absolutely, you love her and be loyal to her. If she treats you terribly, no problem, I'll keep it moving. But you can only get that attitude when you're confident in your physical performance. There are so many men that stay loyal to women who abuse them, treat them badly. And my first question in therapy session is, have you got any erectile dysfunction, or is there something broken?
That's the first question.
My first question. I'm like, why are you taking this nonsense? I love her. I go, no, this has nothing to do with love. There's something broken in your sexual performance. I know that for a fact. Well, I was addicted to pornography and I do sometimes get erectile dysfunction, and she's the only person that can make me ejaculate. I'm like, there you go. You are not confident with replacing her because you don't want to go through the embarrassment again.
Wow.
And I know it because of the energy they give that woman. It's that small d energy, like, please, you can treat me badly, you can cheat on me, no problem, I'm going to stay with you no matter what. That only comes when there's something broken, because a man's because do you know what made me realize this? And I blame black men for this. Because I used to be walking down the street in London, this is obviously when I was younger, and there'd be like, other guys would come to me and they're super nervous around me and blah, blah. And then I'd get a homeless black guy be like, girl, what are you doing tonight? And I'm like, where's all this confidence coming from? And I couldn't understand it. He would approach me.
BD energies.
And I'm like, what's wrong with you? How dare you come up to me?
That black dominant energy.
With so much, like, what are you doing tonight? And I was like, who are you talking to? They're like, girl, you know what, and it was
you know what I ain't got no house, but I can tear that ass up.
And I couldn't believe he had the audacity to even come to me and then ask me for $1 afterwards. I was like, what is going on? And I realized
hilarious.
It's because men unconsciously know their goal when they're talking to women is to get them in bed anyway. So when he comes to you with confidence, it's because in his mind, he knows when he gets you there, you'll be fine, you'll be good. But the men that come with you nervous, what they're really signaling is, when it gets to that stage, I'm going to be nervous, I'm going to be anxious, I'm not sure if you'll like it.
Wow.
So they give off this energy, which they don't realize is so linked to their performance, and they don't realize. And this is why modern men are hardly sleeping with women, are so nervous, are totally simping over girls and tolerating so much. It's because they've hijacked their sexual performance by the use of pornography. They're growing up with it, and so they can't perform well.
I keep hearing that, like, I've been hearing this theme over and over about how pornography is literally ruining the generations
completely.
And you're talking specifically in the space of like confidence and their
Absolutely.
sexual prowess, but even more so of like what it does to the mind and this is wow.
It ruins them, and what it does is that they start really young. So they firstly get hijacked by it. They're using their hand rather than using a vagina to practice. So when they do meet a woman, it doesn't feel anything like what they're used to. They can't perform, they get all this anxiety, they start taking testosterone. Women are very clear when they're not happy with you in that area. When you can't get an erection, they'll make you feel really bad. So what these men end up doing is turning to escorts. They're constantly paying for sex because they're paying for her silence. They're paying for her lack of feedback. They don't want her to say, that was shit. They want it, so they're paying
for her lack of feedback.
That's what they're truly, and then they'll say, oh, we're just paying her to leave. And I was like, that's not true. You would beg her to come back if you could. If you could afford her, you should be there every day. You're pretending you're paying for her to leave, but truly,
paying her not to judge you.
Yeah, you're paying for her silence, because if it was truly, look, and again, this is where I use black men as an example sometimes to my clients. I was like, do you think that a lot of the time they don't even pay? They just get on Tinder and they'll tell a girl, come to my house. They don't even pay for a date. They pull up. And I said, you go to your local gym, there'll be a Tyrone that is sleeping with your wife for free, and she's paying for his protein shakes. And it's terrible.
Yeah, you're going crazy right now.
I grew up in London, you can tell, right?
Nah, but
I'm sorry, like, Vikram, I know you bought her a house and you bought her a car and everything. She's sleeping with Tyrone and paying his bill. And it's terrible. And it's because
it's reality.
you pay for a woman's silence when you're paying for escorts. You're paying for her not to judge you. You're paying for her to accept your poor performance, and you're paying for her not to tell anybody else. Wow. Whereas when you are a man who has sexual confidence, you want the free publicity. When you sleep with a girl, you want her to talk about it.
Tell everybody.
You're like, tell your friends. You want the free publicity.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, this session just blew my mind. In so many ways. I mean, you were just speaking so many truths, and I don't think a lot of people have heard it that simple or that overt. But what's interesting, and as we get to our last and final session, is I think you said it. It was like this is a different type of relationship when a person is sexually desirable.
Yeah.
And that's it sounds like the average person isn't that.
The average person
The
isn't
average
that.
person isn't going around having all of the women that they want or having all of the men that they want. The average person is seeking monogamy. The average person is seeking a healthy relationship that,
which I agree with. It's good for them.
that they can find, their person, their partner. A lot of people believe in soulmates, and hopefully if they find that person who is their person, all of these things that we're talking about that may be insecurities will find a balance, and you'll find a woman who loves you for whatever your sexual performance is, and you'll find a man who desires you, and you're equally yoked in that balance. So I would love in our next session, because you just blew my mind in this session, but to kind of find that common ground and that balance of what the everyday individual
to get that loving relationship
is getting there. Because individual like me, I think you were speaking to me in these first two sessions in such a way to where it's like, oh, a lot of this is definitely clicking. But I've also have the understanding that I don't live the ordinary life.
Yeah, this is something.
I've never lived an ordinary life. I've had access to excess since I was a teenager, and so the way I move throughout the world and the universe isn't the same as a person who may not have the confidence. As an individual who really just desires one partner. And the picket fence lifestyle. They want 2 kids and a dog, and they're fine with that being life. So I think as we get into, the final M, the final master is mastering a relationship. I feel like it would help me as well, because even though I don't desire that, I do understand that is the status quo. I do understand that, the majority of the people that are watching this want a husband, want a wife, and they want to be faithful to their husband. They want to be faithful to their wife. So we'll tap into that, because as you blew my mind in this session,
being a troublemaker, I am.
We'll reel it in our final session, and hopefully it'll be even more relatable, for that average individual. So thank you once again.
Thank you for having me, my love.
Like, subscribe. It's Counterculture.